I grew up in Michigan. That's where I was born and raised. I come from a family of two kids. I had just me and my older brother. Both my parents were alcoholics, so I kind of suffered that emotional abuse. I think I was about 12 or 13 when I first started thinking about the military. And then as my childhood and family life got worse, it was just like more of a magnet pulling me to the military to find what was missing in my life. That's what drew me at 17 to go to the military and to the Marine Corps. I loved my 8 years in the Marine Corps. I mean, I had a few incidents I look back now that were traumatic events, but at the time I never really even thought about it. In 1994, I had gone in front of a screening team for both the drill field and recruiting duty, but I didn't want to go be a recruiter, so I decided to get out of the Marine Corps. Some buddies of mine that had been out of the Marine Corps, they had gotten recruited by the Air Force to go be either a pararescueman or a combat controller. One of my buddies told me all about it. I got out of the Marine Corps on a Friday, and the following Monday, I was at the MEP station starting all over. I would spend time up in Virginia Beach working with a SEAL team up there. I'd spend time at Fort Bragg working with an Army unit there. I was in Virginia Beach, and I came across this flag. It was laying in the road, it was in the rain, and so I picked it up because flags shouldn't be on the ground, and I decided I would just hold on to it. I knew I was going to be going overseas, and I was going to Bosnia, so I took it with me. Within a few weeks of getting back from Bosnia is when September 11th happened, and so I decided at that point I would take it with me, and I would take it everywhere I went. And I took it with me as a symbol of our freedoms and what we have here in America that I think so many people take lightly. Once September 11th happened, it was basically nonstop go. It was early October. My unit, my organization, we deployed to Masira, Oman. It was just mission after mission after mission. So I got back in January 2002. I went back over at the beginning of April for a 4-month deployment, working on the eastern border of Pakistan and Afghanistan. Very small units, 3 to 4 man, what we called soft raids. One day we got some quick actionable intelligence. We fitted up real quick and launched. There was a small irrigation ditch about 20 feet away, and that's where my team ended up being in. As we got engaged in a big firefight, an individual popped up in the doorway with a weapon. He wasn't wearing a uniform, but that wasn't uncommon, and I had to make a split-second decision. Is this an innocent civilian or is this a terrorist? And I had to take and shoot the individual at very close range. And it was the first time I'd shot someone so close. And they started throwing grenades at us over the wall of the compound. And they were getting close. We were really starting to worry, like, okay, this is a bad situation. We got to get out of there. And my team leader made the decision that we needed to move. I picked up and just started running and exposed myself to all the weapons fired to get to a safer location. And then once we got into a safer location, the aircraft became available and we started dropping bombs on the target. Now, we weren't able to get a far distance away, so the bombs were landing somewhat close and we could feel somewhat of the effects of them. So it was about a month after that mission that I came back to the States. And once I got home and I turned in all my gear and all that, I was given time off. It was during that time that I started showing signs of what later would be diagnosed as post-traumatic stress. I couldn't sleep at night. When I did sleep, I'd wake up with nightmares. I'd be soaking wet and sweat. I found myself being very hypervigilant, always on guard, like I was, possibly back in that moment. It was my ex-wife that noticed it and said, "Hey, something's not right here." She couldn't touch me if I was sleeping because it would startle me awake and I'd jump up and think someone was trying to attack me. I came close to dying, and really, the thought that I wasn't gonna come home and my daughter would grow up without a father. As time went on, I started really dwelling on, did I kill an innocent civilian? So my way of coping with the not being able to sleep, along with the separation and everything, is I started drinking more and more and more. It just got worse and worse. And then finally the unit was like, "Hey, you need to get your act together. We're getting ready to go into Iraq." And that's what kind of slowed that down. My unit was one of the first units that went in and set up in Saudi Arabia. I initially started off on our operations staff, so I wasn't going on missions. One of my buddies, good friend, got killed in a friendly fire incident. So that was rough because I was listening on the radio and monitoring that mission when it happened. And then 2 weeks later is when I got pulled off the staff to go on my first mission in Iraq, which again would turn out to be somewhat traumatic because of just, what all I saw. And that was to be part of the Jessica Lynch rescue. Everything happened so fast. Command had gotten intelligence where she was, and it was spinning fast. Within like hours, we were moving. So there was no time to even really process what was going on. Once Jessica Lynch left the target, being advised by an Iraqi doctor at the hospital that there were other Americans there, and it was the remains of other Americans that had been with Jessica Lynch that no one was prepared to take off the site. And so it was watching young Army Rangers have to use ponchos to put these bodies in for us to take with us. That was when I really saw for the first time just how horrific a human being can treat another human being. So I think I ended up being there 4.5 months before I came home. I came home to an empty house. My daughter was living with my ex-wife. And that really kind of started me going down a really dark path because of the emptiness, the loneliness, trying to wrestle with everything I'd been dealing with the deployments and combat started to become too much. And I went back to the drinking, and then I had my first suicide attempt with pills and alcohol. Thankfully, I did not succeed. So my command found out. They were notified in the middle of the night what had happened, and they watched me for 72 hours, and the unit psychologist said, he seems to be okay. I don't see where he's got, this strong desire to try to kill himself again. So they said, okay, you're good to go back to work. It was never even suggested, hey, you should go see a therapist, a psychologist. That was 2003. And really from that point until I retired, 4 years later, I just dealt with it on my own. My retirement party was on a Saturday. The following Monday, when I woke up and I didn't have to go to work and I wasn't in the military anymore, almost instantaneously depression set in. Because now it was like, what do I do? Who am I? The whole reason I went into the military. That family was now gone. I didn't have it anymore. I still had my friends that I still talked to, but that unit cohesion, that family piece was now broken. I knew that I needed help. I knew that something was not right in 2016. So 9 years after I retired. And that was only because my now wife, my second wife, noticed my behaviors. The tipping point was my second suicide attempt on January 7th, 2017. And that is what ultimately led to me going and starting my first treatment for PTSD. I hated how I felt. I hated fighting with it. I hated how I was treating her. So I was like, okay, if I just kill myself, I don't have to fight what's going on in my head. I don't treat her bad anymore. I was thinking life was going to be better for her. Somewhere in there, the irrational thought went away and the thoughts of her popped back in my head and how much she loved me and how much I love her. And that's what got me to actually come back home, because I'd gone out in the woods with my pistol. That's what got me to come back home, and she embraced me. When I started going through therapy, I'd never heard of Headstrong. I went and saw a psychologist, which I was paying a ton of money out of pocket because insurance didn't cover all of it. And I saw one psychologist, I took a break and saw another psychologist, paying a ton of money out of pocket. And again, I stopped going to see the second psychologist because of money, but I was still struggling. And then a friend of mine who works with first responders that have mental health problems said, hey, have you ever heard about Headstrong? And I'm like, I don't even know what Headstrong is. And so he told me about, Headstrong, and it's been amazing ever since. Here I was, I'm a veteran, I'm struggling, I'm in crisis, And then on top of that, you throw the financial piece. So Headstrong was very helpful because now I could just focus on dealing with my post-traumatic stress. My therapist has helped me really move through a good majority of that post-traumatic stress, but she's also delved down into some of the underlying traumas from my childhood that no one else ever had, and to show where all that cumulative stuff has really built up and has affected me my whole life, and I never even really knew it. She's the first person I know that I can text, I can email, and right away she'll respond. Or if I need an emergency appointment because I start struggling again, she's right there. So it's amazing. It's a very connected, I want to say, relationship. I never feel like I'm just talking to a doctor or a therapist, that it is just like, yep, okay, you're doing great, keep doing the work. There's a connection where I honestly, truly know she cares. So it's amazing. It's the first time I've had that. I know that the tools I have from Headstrong are definitely going to help me. They help me every day. I hope that every day is a better day than it was yesterday. And I hope that next year's a better year than it was, this year. I definitely have hope, and I feel very certain, working with Headstrong and with Diana and having Denny, that it's gonna keep getting better. I feel that there are too many veterans out there that are afraid to reach out for help. A lot of them have either been to the VA or are leery of the VA. And I think a lot of them worry about how they're going to pay for it. I think Headstrong provides hope for anybody that's willing to reach out to get it. I think Headstrong provides the hope that people don't realize is there.